Make it count, ladies and gentlemen, please, round of applause.
Well, hello, good afternoon. I hope that you can hear me. My name is Jessica Bastion, and I'm here today with my team, Make It Count, to talk to you guys about our project on using library data and connecting that to student success in order to make libraries count. So before we get into the details of our project, let's take a moment and we'll introduce our team.
Rochelle Stivers, I'm the library director at Heartland Community College. Also not able to make it here today, but very instrumental and a huge part of our team is Erin Zimmerman, and she's also from Heartland Community College.
I'm Anne-Marie Green. I'm Director of Library Services at Kishwaukee College.
I'm Jennifer Sauser. I'm the Head of Access Services and Assessment at Columbia College Chicago.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. All right, so now, audience. We're going to do a little bit of a thought experiment, and I need you to all imagine that you are freshmen in college, it's your first week of school. And that's what the first week of school is like. So the ominous music, maybe it'll take you back to all those emotions that you had that first week of school. Right, okay.
Was that Mike?
It was that ominous.
Okay. So, it's your first week of school and you attend a library orientation session. Your lovely librarian is standing in front of you, basically just talking, you know, really excited, all the services that you're going to get. You leave that session basically knowing two things. One, that your college or university has a library, which is a great thing. And the second thing that you take away from that interaction is that you should use the library, or that you know we want you to use the library. That would be like the second thing. Okay, so now we're back in present day. You're librarians again, and you're posed with the question of student impact on, or library impact on student learning, right? You're asked that question. So as librarians, we're going to take a little bit of poll just with a show of hands. How many of you think that the students that have had the library instruction session are more likely to walk through the doors of the library than a student, say, that has had nothing? So raise your hand. Okay, now look around, a pretty good majority, right? How many of you think that a student who's had an orientation session is more likely to check out a book than a student that has had nothing? Raise your hand. Yeah, so like a pretty big majority. It's kind of easy questions, right? We can logically assume that if a student knows there's a library, they're going to come through the doors. If a student knows there's a library, they're going to check out a book. And my third question is, how many of you think that the student that has had the instruction session is more likely to earn a higher GPA at the end of their first semester than a student that has had no library interaction at all? Raise your hand. Okay, still a good majority, but that was a little bit tougher, or that was a little trickier of a question, right? It's a far cry to go between, yeah, I think my student's going to check out a book, to, yeah, I think my student's going to earn a higher GPA.
And
so,
prove it.
Yeah. So as librarians, I'm not surprised by your answer, right? We believe in the work that we do. We believe that we have an impact on student learning, and those of us who work the front lines, like myself, on the reference desk 10 hours a week, and in classrooms doing library instruction, working with my faculty to build my collection, I absolutely believe that what I do makes an impact on student learning. But when I'm asked to correlate that impact or put it in some kind of tangible report to show my evidence, right, I struggle. And not only do I struggle, but I struggle alone in my office, you know, kind of siloed, unsure of what I'm looking at when I look at these numbers and how to express and illustrate those numbers in a way that will be meaningful. And not just meaningful to my director, but to my administration and to my state and to all of the bodies that you know, we report to. And the thing is that the four of us on the stage and our one team member that's not here, we also believe that we should not struggle alone, right? And that we as a group can come together around this question and do something about it. But the thing is we can't just ignore this question of impact because we are being asked to prove, not to prove, we're being asked to illustrate, to correlate, all of those things, but in the end, we're being asked to speak to this question. So that brings us to why we're here at ILEAD U. So we came to ILEAD U with these questions that we didn't have tangible evidence or any kind of way to even answer them. And at ILEAD U, it was a beautiful process and a wonderful thing, but we were able to really dig in. And I didn't know any of my team members before joining this team. So it was an opportunity to sit down and to learn from each other and to kind of go through these questions. On the slide behind me are images from a session with Beck, where we were trying to explain to Beck what our problems were, who our audience was, what our project was even trying to do or trying to accomplish, right? So let me take a step back. I'm a little bit off my timeline. But let me ask you, how would you, so as librarians, again, in my thought experiment, I kind of gave myself away. But how would you go about looking or trying to measure this impact, right? How do we as librarians always try to measure our impact? What do we do? Statistics, right, data, we look at data. And so that's what our project is trying to do. So through this creative process, in the first week we were here at ILEAD U, we were able to develop our 3 project goals. And they're on the screen behind me, but I'll take you through them. The first project goal we had was simply to unite a community, to build on this idea that we know we're all struggling, but we shouldn't struggle alone, right? So we want to unite this academic librarian community around this question of library impact on student learning. And we wanted to provide a forum for discussion that would eventually hopefully lead to standardization across institutions. The second thing we wanted to do, Jennifer came to our team with a data tool that she had created that had helped her in her struggle at her school. So we wanted to figure out how to take this tool and make it accessible across all of our institutions. That's our second project goal, to launch this data tool. And the third thing we wanted to do was to connect the dots between our standardized, and I might be blocking my screen, connect the dots between the standardized library use statistics that we all have, right? Circulation, or easy proxy logs, things like that. Connect the data that we had, that we already possess, with the data that our institutions already possess, right? Our IR departments, which is institutional research, they already keep demographic information on students. They keep information on student achievement. So how do we take what we already collect in the library and connect it with what our schools already keeping track of with our students? So those were our 3 goals. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, and they're going to tell you a little bit about our deliverables, which at this point we have 2 deliverables. And the first one we're going to talk about is our website, librariescount.org.
Normally, this would be Erin's part, and I do want to give full and complete credit. Erin did this website pretty much all on her own. Everybody here provided help when she needed it, but she really sat down and learned how to do this and put this website together for us. There's 2 things we wanted to achieve with that. One is the forum for the exchange of ideas, and then something with practical questions and more philosophical questions, and then also a place to put the actual data tool. So a bit about her process that she wanted me to share with you. She did use Drupal, and that's something she picked up from one of the breakout sessions that was here, and she enjoyed working with that. We chose as our hosting service Green Geeks and have had really good luck using that with Drupal. The team themselves had quite a bit of discussion about the forums, like what should the topics be? How should we organize them? Should they be more free form? Should they be on particular topics? So this will be open. The address is on the cards that was handed out to you. You can go to it now. You can look at it. You can start posting questions, and people can start answering them, hopefully. The other thing, oh, and she said that this was a very steep learning curve. Had she had it to do over again for the forums, that would have been where some of that grant money would have gone. We will be spending some of the grant money on future design of this website so that we can add more tools. The data tool itself will be uploaded there. This will be something then that individual libraries can download to analyze their data, along with instructions on how to do that. We'd also like to maybe have some embedded spreadsheets in there that will allow library to library comparisons. So once I have my numbers, I can compare to them to what Kishwaukee's numbers looks like. Okay. Like I say, we need more functionality in the website, so that's a future development. And we're also going to need some more security put on there because we're getting a lot of spam right now. So that's it for the website. And now the data tool.
Looks exciting, doesn't it? All
That's
right.
the conga line in the academic right up there.
Yeah, that's a nerd's conga line right there. Okay, so first the what of the tool. Libraries have been really good historically at counting things like circulation and the door counts and all that. But when you work on the annual report and you send it to your administrator, what does that mean to them? Like, step away from the mic. I'll go over here. So it's not, when they're separated, it doesn't mean that much. So the data tool allows us to take previously siloed data sets and relate them to each other. Is that what people hear in the feedback, or is that just, okay, let me keep going. So previously siloed data sets allowing us to explore the impact on our, of like instruction on resource usage. And if, for example, the library at New Student Orientation saw a certain number of freshmen, does connecting with them at that point early in their career result in them coming to the library to use resources because they know we're there and what we have? So that's kind of the purpose. It's a Microsoft Access database, and by relating those different things, it allows us to do targeted marketing, to say to the faculty, not only do we believe, but we can show you that your students, when they attend instruction, when they use library resources and out of peer-reviewed journals, it makes a difference in their retention, in their grades, that sort of thing. It will allow us, by using the same tool, to talk to each other about what if instruction at Rochelle's institution is resulting in a much greater increase in resource usage. Maybe our reference librarians at Columbia want to connect with her reference librarians to talk about what practices are you doing, because we see a difference in these numbers that indicates you're very successful, and we want to know what you're doing. So, and then it also allows us to look at our own data and explore it without exporting it to like the Office of Institutional Effectiveness. So right now what you could do is send like the people that attended instruction, send a list of those numbers or their like institutional IDs to your institutional effectiveness staff, and then they could tell you about the demographics. But that kind of takes some of the exploration out of your hands. By providing librarians with this tool in-house to relate their data sets, you can explore the data without having to rely on the availability of their staff time. You can do it on your own time. Come up with your own questions, and then only come to them with very targeted questions about what the demographic and attainment data, like GPA, for those students are. So they'd appreciate that because they're very busy. So if we can be very pointed in our requests for their time and expertise, that I'm sure they would greatly appreciate. So, so this right here, that's the database. Those are the relating the patron table, and how Access relates the patron information out of our ILS and instruction attendance and that sort of thing. This down here is an example of a query. So you have this actually shows, I don't know if you can see it, but out of the different departments, are your art and design students coming through? Are your film students coming through? Is it faculty? Is it staff? All of that's really important when you're identifying who your users are on campus who might need additional outreach and that sort of thing. So this, for those that don't want to deal with this, there is this. There's at least one person normally in all Carly institutions that will dig in and play with the SQL queries and stuff like that. So Erin did great work. Jessica, you work with that. I will admit that I like that quite a bit. But I'm in a minority, I think. So having the reports within this data tool will allow people that don't want to deal with this to just be able to have a core set of reports that speak directly to what their administrators need. And then the forums and the website will allow us to develop more as usage indicates what we want to build out.
And so what ILEAD U allowed us to do was hire a developer to take Jennifer's proof of concept and to design it in a way so that, because she was gracious when she said, I work with SQL, I'm supposed to, and I'm learning, but it's very frustrating. So what this developer allowed us to do was kind of make it so that novice and sort of tech-phobic librarians it's much more user-friendly. So we're building out forms, we're making the whole process a lot easier. And so again, because of ILEAD U, it allowed us to connect with the developer that really helped us flesh this tool out to make it so that people like me could use it, could kind of just reap the benefits of Jennifer's genius. So we appreciate that.
I do this, which isn't pretty, and our developer is going to take care of the user interface, and that'll be another part of the build out. So that's that. So back to Michelle.
All right, so this is me again. People get a little uptight in the library world when you start talking about users and their patrons and stuff like that, right? So you all have these little cards. I don't know how many of you actually remember working with these. They were actually using these when I first started at Heartland because we didn't have an online system yet. These are real cards. These are real people, okay? Who's feeling a little creeped out? Right? Yeah, okay. And we're feeling creeped out because librarians have always protected patron privacy, right? No, we haven't. It wasn't really until the 1960s when you saw a confluence of government intrusion, changing cultural norms, and technological advances. That's what led to the push for the laws and the policies and everything on privacy. So what's happening now? Changing cultural norms and technological advances, but this time they're conspiring if you will, to challenge our enshrinement of privacy, okay? So I think we've always been comfortable with data about things. Like I said, this book checked out 12 times, so I need to get more books on this. I need the money to get the books. I need the money to staff it, to process them and catalog them and get them on the shelf and all that sort of stuff. But what I don't know with this sort of data is, I don't know if a librarian helped the student find the book, okay? If I don't tap into my patron data as opposed to my item data, I cannot answer the questions that we posed at the beginning of this, okay? And that's what my administrators want to know, and that's how they're going to determine my budget. So, if I need to compromise privacy to get the money, feeling creeped out yet? Okay, it creeps me out. So I have two proposals for this, one more practical and one more philosophical, okay? So there are basic data security protections that we can put in place, right? So like if you look at your card, if I rip off the title, go ahead and do it. And it'll make you feel better, it really will. And I separate it from the users, I've decoupled the data, okay? And if you could go ahead and start passing those things forward then too. Huh? Yeah, just pass them forward, it's easier that way. Okay, because I don't need to know which student checked it out, I just need to know that a student checked it out, okay? The other thing I can do is I can start converting these names to numbers. So if it's their student ID number in a vacuum, that means nothing to you, that means nothing to them, right? And you're passing forward the cards, you're bringing the cards forward, so now I'm the only one that has access to these. So I've limited access to the data itself, right? Now I'm guessing there's probably still some cards out there. That's because I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to data security and data privacy. But I'm hoping that by using the website, right, with the forums, that I can find out what other schools and universities are doing, what their policies are, what their practices are, and I can learn from them, okay? My second proposal is a bit more philosophical, and that is to remember why we care about patron privacy in the first place. Okay? To me anyway, it's because we believe the freedom to read from prying eyes encourages inquisitiveness and curiosity and discovery. And I think that we can use that ideal to help inform our use of patron data in ethical ways. I'm looking forward to having that conversation because I don't have answers yet, again, on the website. And I'm looking forward to having that conversation specifically with librarians. Okay. And next up, our community reps.
Our community representatives were largely from our institutional research departments. One of the benefits of working at an academic library is that you got people who are experts in the statistical analysis and the demographic analysis. And all of them have been very interested in the project. We've had interest in the project actually from other states, and we've all gotten contacted by people in and out of state with questions about the project. This data about the value of the library is very important to all of us. And connecting academic services to grade point average, retention, keeping them there for the whole semester, persistence, helping them along to getting and completing the degree, these are important things that all of us want to talk about. Librarians have long used this piece of the card. We all look at the titles and how they got used and if they got used. But wouldn't your collection development decisions be different if you're an academic librarian and the books in the physics area were getting used more by English 103 students studying climate change for their papers than it would be if it were the physics majors? Wouldn't you be doing a different thing? We don't know that answer. We've never looked at this side. We only look at this side. It's a big important thing that we're learning how to do. Having and using this kind of information and passing this edge of the card off to our institutional research departments gets us at looking at some of those local questions. Why do we want to do this? Because we have to. We are accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. The Higher Learning Commission says that if you're going to be an accredited college, you have to have a library to support instruction, and you have to teach people how to use library resources and teach them about the research process. And if you're going to do that, you also have to it's really important. You have to assess student achievement. So when they see you about how to use library resources, you need to be able to talk about what they achieved in contact. And you're supposed to tie your data to retention, persistence, and completion rates. Did they stay in class? Did they come back the following semester? And did they finally get to the degree? Our accrediting body wants to know that we contribute to that. That leaves us with a lot of work still to do in our next steps. I think one of the biggest things we were all hoping when we started this project was that we'd all be using the data tool already. And we've done some small things. I sent user data on people who checked out a book in my library last fiscal year to my institutional research department and asked for, give me a demographic breakdown. Tell me who my people are. Who are the people who are actually using the library? And 68% of the people who checked out a book were African American females seeking transfer degrees to a bachelor level institution. 68%. The African American population total of my college is only 23. I don't know what the difference in those numbers mean yet, but I'm really happy I know that because I have more questions now. And those are some of the information and some of the data that we want to look at. I also found out that compared to people who don't check out a book from the library, people who check out a book at my library were 12% more likely to finish the semester and come back the next semester than people who never walked in. These are nice numbers to know. But we need to talk about this further, use the webpage to talk about what we're looking at, to actually start using the data tool to compare not just checkout usage, but to pull in the the logs from the electronic resources so we can see, are there differences in population there? Are there differences in how they get used? Are there certain connections with the library that are more important than others? Is someone attending a program more likely to persist than someone who attended something else? Using that data tool will be very helpful. And again, connecting the dots, documenting our process on incorporating this institutional data to do what the Higher Learning Commission wants us to and talk about persistence and retention and success. We want to do that on the webpage. We have already included Neil Rock and Carly in some of our conversations, and we'll be presenting at Forward Focus at the beginning of November. And we are slated to talk again next September at a Neil Rock meeting, another organization for community college libraries. So we plan to take this forward, start using it ourselves, and start sharing it within the college community. Any questions? Yeah. No conga line.
Hello. Oh, I guess I just have one more thing to add, and it should have been in the presentation. It just kind of popped in my head while I was listening. What's interesting about what we're talking about here today is that other areas of our colleges are already doing this, right? So the athletic centers do it, the learning labs do it, the math lab does it, the writing lab does it. They already collect the student data and are linking it to the student use data and are linking it to student success data. So in our own institutions, the library is like one of the last to jump on board with this kind of analysis and data collection.
Question from me.
Questions?
I'm a huge fan of this project because I hate to disagree. And maybe your institution is radically different from mine, but as we're heading to accreditation at the university level in 2017, you should watch all the administrators run in circles to have just that kind of statement that you just pulled out about how many people are moving. And such. This is such an important project, an important idea, an important demonstration, and I want to thank you for taking it on. And I want to urge you to push this as far as you can, because Northeast Private PhD Research University needs to hear this, and our libraries need to be part of this. So,
and so we just saw it this morning that the ACRL is having a webinar probably right now on this very topic. So yeah, it's.
Well, you'd be happy to know the technology didn't work for them. So.
Oh, okay.
We did that for you.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
So we're not. I mean, we're just one of many teams and researchers that are working on this
Everybody's struggling with this issue.
Right.
Since the Higher Learning Commission put assessment of co-curricular learning, which the library is in their accreditation policies, which I think was January of 2013, which,
Well, I agree that everyone's struggling with it. What I love about this one is you guys have data diagrams. You guys have data repositories. You have real stories on it. And I think that's far and away an important thing, rather than sitting back and waiting for particularly online database providers to decide what data they're going
at
to
$26,000 a pop, yeah.
Yeah,
When you talked about privacy protections and uncoupling data to do that, do you have any concerns about the data you're trying to collect and the individual institutional data policies of the academic institutions that might be participating? Is there any tension there?
First, I'd say it's data we almost all already collect, we've just never done anything with.
right.
What we're talking about is the stuff that's in the library automation system. It's all there. The proxy server logs so that people from off campus can get in. It's already all there.
But now that you're trying to
But now that we're trying to do something, the biggest challenge, I guess, is getting the attention of your institutional research department. I will never, ever, ever in the history of the universe have access to student GPA data. That won't happen. You know, there are information and HIPAA laws and data sharing between departments stuff. Our information gets handed up to IR on high, and they do their magic and hand us back a report.
And I do think it is important that if you are embarking on this, that you talk to your IR department. Some people, and that is a section, one of the forums on the website is how do you talk to your IR department? What is an IR department? Do I have an IR department? You know, that sort of thing too.
But I will say though that there is tension, and just on Monday I was talking about this issue in a staff meeting, and a colleague of mine who I love dearly, but she is a patron privacy, you know, that's her thing. So I definitely think that there is some tension even in our own ranks about what we're going to collect. The issue that came up at my school on Monday is that I really want to install some software at the reference desk where students can opt in to swiping their card after a transaction, so we get that institutional data right then and there. It's not radical, so the Learning Lab does this at my school, the Math Lab, the Writing Center, the studio. We do it at the gym when we walk into, you know, the various parts of the gym. But she was concerned about user agreements at the reference desk if we're gonna allow this. So there are lots of issues that need to be worked out, and part of this push is allowing us to rethink and to change the way that we are collecting data. So
I would say too, though, a lot of those areas, like my fitness center doesn't have a long professional ethical commitment to privacy.
Right.
Are you sure? But as you pointed out, we're not really that good at it either.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely the tension is exciting, and the forums allow us to explore these issues further, and it's neat.
Good, Beck.
Oh, go ahead. So just to follow on a little bit with what David said, and I want to congratulate you on pulling all this off. I know how it started as a simple idea, got really, really complex, and you're presenting it now with both of those in mind, and it's just really nice. I don't know what your plans are. I know you're a community. Generally, you didn't all know each other to begin with, but you're a community. And you clearly have aesthetic sensibilities. And I want to encourage you not only on the thinking broadly about how you share what you have made, sharing what you've learned about these things, like what are the meaningful things that popped up, and sharing that in some way that becomes something that other academic librarians can see as advocacy for academic libraries, and also a reason to get into this. I want to encourage you to keep going and working together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I would hope we would do that. Yeah.
And we met faithfully like every 2 weeks, and this team for me was so incredible because I'm so new at this profession, and so to just be connected with these people and to learn so much, so it was really good. And I think this group plans to stay together. We'll launch the data tool in February, and then our plan is to use it at our institutions for probably a year, and then to see what outcomes we have, and to see what opportunities we have for you know, authoring or taking it on the road, or just to see if we have any meaningful outcomes, which early, you know, I think we will. We'll think we'll have something to show. So.
Thank you for that. And also the part of that continued dialogue we've built in the website. The forums are there because what we discovered when we came together is that we're all struggling with the same pressures, questions, dreams. So the forums will allow those best practices to happen over a very wide group, and I think we will just reap wonderful things from that. It's very isolating to be stuck at your computer, at your desk with SQL. Like, I hope this works. You know, like, so this is
where your joiners have to be an inner join and an outer join. It's really
right.
It's,
which is it?
Yeah.
Right. So,
Anne, did you have a question?
I just wanted to ask, how are you going to sort of feed the forums? You know, how are you going to open that up to the Carly community?
That's Carly and Nilrock.
Yeah,
Okay.
anybody is welcome to, if you want to post all the forms, you just go in and register. And it's definitely more of a discussion. We'll monitor it to a certain extent, but we do not have answers. but
And the Carly Analytic Task Force, which several with so several of them are members of. So primarily through Carly. We hope to push this through Carly, which for those of you who don't know what Carly is, it's the consortium that many Illinois academic libraries belong to. And the reason for this is we have the same foundation, so we already use the same
Library
management systems and reporting mechanisms. So it will be Carly librarians that will be hopefully submitting questions and keeping the forum alive. But certainly I think that is that's one of the areas where it could become challenging. And if nobody posts a question, what are we going to do? But the four of us will populate it, and we'll hope that it just grows from there.
I think
Dear friends, last question.
Looks like Anne.
Well, I just had a follow-up. I wanted to say that if the state library can help by advertising the forum in our e-newsletter and, asking people to participate, that goes to 6,000 different subscribers.
Yes.
So if you want exposure, I mean, for
yeah,
any
that
forum,
was like, whoa, wait, 6 hours.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
But that would be great.
Yes.
Right now, we've been attacked by spam like crazy. So if someone were to go to the site, I think we were this morning we were removing Polish language posts, and we had a moment where we're like, well, we really hope this isn't a library data question in Polish that we just can't read. So thank you for that, and we'll definitely take you up on that.
Thank you all very much.